Once upon a time in a not-so-glamorous part of town, there lived a scrawny, scruffy cat who was, well, let's just say not the picture of feline fabulousness. His name was Mittens. But we'll be honest, his owner, let's call her Tiffany, had found him abandoned behind the Glam and Glow tanning salon, so she decided to rename him accordingly. Now, Jim Cat, as Tiffany called him, wasn't strong. He wasn't graceful. In fact, he was the weakest cat in the neighborhood. The biggest struggle for him was getting up on chairs. One sunny afternoon, Tiffany came home to find Jim Cat attempting to scale a chair in her living room. Now, usually, Tiffany would have found this endearing, but today she was expecting company. And if these guests saw her cat trying to look classy while clearly being the offspring of a raccoon and a stray, well, she just knew it would ruin her rep as the owner of the most fabulous cat in town. Determined to save face, Tiffany gently nudged Jim Cat off the chair with her foot. "Oh, honey," she said, "don't try so hard. You're just not cut out for the finer things." As the guests arrived, Jim Cat slumped under the sofa, dejected. Little did anyone know that day, this tiny furball was about to become a warrior. The next day, Tiffany left for work, leaving Jim Cat alone in the house, or so she thought. See, she had recently invested in a home gym, complete with free weights, resistance bands, and a punching bag. And as she left, she noticed Jim Cat staring intently at the set of dumbbells on the corner. A playful smile spread across her face as she turned to leave. "Well, if you insist," she said over her shoulder. "Just start small." She placed the smallest weight on the floor beside him and closed the door. And from that moment, something shifted inside Jim Cat. Every morning when Tiffany left for work, he would begin his training. At first, it was just a matter of pawing at that tiny dumbbell, but slowly, very slowly, he began to bat at the hanging ropes in the gym, stretching his whole body like a furry little push-up. He began sprinting on the treadmill, although he looked more like a tiny greyhound than a house cat. And one time he even knocked over Tiffany's protein shake, taking a dainty sip before resuming his workout. Days turned into weeks, and Jim Cat's determination never wavered. There were setbacks, of course. Like the time he tried to impress Tiffany by jumping onto a high shelf and missed, sending cans of cat food tumbling to the floor. Or when he got his legs stuck in a resistance band and had to meow pitifully until Tiffany came home and rescued him. Yet despite these setbacks, he kept going because he knew that every warrior falls, but only the strong ones get back up. Then one day, everything changed. Jim Cat was trying his favorite trick, leaping onto a high shelf to survey his kingdom. And as he pushed off the floor, he felt something shift in his body. He nailed the jump, landing perfectly on the shelf. Looking down at his paws, he noticed that his muscles were starting to define under his fur. His legs were stronger, his belly was tighter. He even felt a bit taller. It was then that Jim Cat knew the weakling was gone, replaced by a sleek, powerful feline. No longer clumsy or awkward, Jim Cat now moved with the confidence of a seasoned pro. Each leap was precise, each stretch purposeful, even his naps seemed more dignified. One evening, as Jim Cat basked in the glow of his newfound strength, he heard a familiar swagger in the hallway. It was the big bully cat from down the street, the same one who had tormented Jim Cat since he was a scrawny kitten. As the bully approached, a smirk curling his lip, Jim Cat stood his ground. Instead of cowering as he had in the past, Jim Cat met the bully's gaze, his green eyes flashing with newfound confidence. Then, much to the surprise of both cats, Jim Cat simply yawned, stretched languidly, and balanced on the back of the couch as if it were a tightrope. The bully, taken aback by this strange display, blinked a few times before slinking away with his tail between his legs. And that was the day Jim Cat realized it wasn't just his muscles that had grown, his courage had too. From weakest to warrior, Jim Cat had done it. And as Tiffany watched him lounge proudly on her dumbbells later that evening, she knew she wasn't just the owner of the most fabulous cat in town, she was the owner of a true champion. We all start small, we all stumble. But with patience, heart, and maybe a few push-ups, Anyone can glow up into a warrior. Never underestimate the undercat.